The rain had stopped only minutes before, leaving the streets of Charleston shining like sheets of glass beneath the fading afternoon sun. Inside a quiet corner of an outdoor restaurant, a man named Caleb Turner sat perfectly still, hands clasped, jaw tightened, eyes fixed on the empty chair across from him. It was the same chair he had been staring at every Friday for the last 3 months. The same chair he hoped would someday be filled again by the woman who had walked out of his life without a warning, without a promise, without a goodbye. Caleb wasn't just waiting, he was holding on to the last thread of a broken dream, desperately afraid to let go, because letting go meant accepting that the one person he thought would love him forever had already chosen to move on. If you believe in kindness, in healing, and in the power of unexpected second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts. Caleb wasn't the kind of man who showed his emotions easily. A former Marine with a strong posture and a quiet intensity, he carried his wounds like invisible medals. But the silence left behind by Marissa, the woman he once planned to marry, had turned even the toughest parts of him fragile. Some days he convinced himself she would come back. Other days he hated himself for waiting. Yet he kept returning to that same table, as if being there made him feel closer to the life he had imagined. That Friday afternoon felt no different. The air carried the soft scent of jasmine, the streets hummed with weekend chatter, and the restaurant slowly filled with people laughing, celebrating, living. Caleb observed it all from a distance. He felt like a man frozen in time while the rest of the world moved forward without him. Then everything shifted. As he was rubbing his hands together out of habit, a motion he always did when nervous, he sensed someone approaching. He looked up slowly, expecting maybe the waiter or perhaps a stranger, needing directions. But instead, standing beside the table was a woman he had never seen before. Her name, he would later learn, was Sophie Allen. But in that moment, all he noticed was the soft warmth in her expression, gentle, unhurried, almost familiar, despite being a complete stranger. She looked slightly confused, glancing between him and the table number as if she was trying to figure out whether she'd made a mistake. Her navy blouse moved lightly with the breeze, her hair shining under the afternoon light, and there was a kindness in her eyes that seemed to cut right through the fog Caleb had been living in. She whispered an apology, explaining that she thought the table was empty. But Caleb, struck by something he couldn't yet name, told her she could stay if she wanted. Maybe it was the loneliness speaking, maybe it was instinct, or maybe it was the gentle way she smiled, something in it reminding him of a time when he still believed life could surprise him in beautiful ways. Sophie hesitated, but only for a moment. Something about Caleb, his stillness, his guarded expression, the heaviness in his posture, felt like a story she wasn't supposed to walk away from. So she sat. What started as an awkward, accidental meeting slowly unfolded into an unexpected connection. Sophie wasn't waiting for anyone. In fact, she had come to the restaurant as a break from the overwhelming pressure of caring for her father, who had fallen ill months earlier. She admitted that she hadn't had a meal outside the house in weeks, and the exhaustion in her voice made Caleb soften in a way he hadn't in months. They talked, not about broken engagements or painful memories, but about the strange ways life pushes people into places they never thought they'd be. Caleb found himself listening, really listening, for the first time in a long while. Sophie shared how she felt guilty taking even an hour for herself. Caleb shared how he didn't know how to stop waiting for someone who had already left. They spoke about responsibility, fear, loneliness, and the strange comfort of speaking honestly to someone who didn't expect anything from you. There was something healing in the simplicity of their conversation. No pressure, no expectations, no history. Just two people carrying heavy stories, finally able to set them down for a while. But what really changed Caleb was the way Sophie looked at him, not with pity, not with curiosity, but with understanding, as if she saw a man trying to rebuild himself, even while standing in the ruins, as if she understood that people who wait, who hope, who love deeply even when it hurts, are not weak, they're human. When the sky began turning shades of gold and pink, Sophie stood to leave. Caleb felt a strange ache in his chest, not the deep, tearing ache he felt for Marissa, but something lighter and quieter, like the flutter of wings he thought he'd never feel again. Sophie gently placed her hand on his shoulder, a brief but grounding gesture. She thanked him for listening, for talking, for making her feel seen. Then she walked away, turning back once with a soft smile that felt like a promise, not of romance, not of fate, but of possibility. Caleb watched her go, and something inside him shifted. For the first time in months, he wasn't staring at an empty chair. For the first time in months, he wasn't trapped in the memory of someone who didn't want to stay. He realized that healing doesn't always come from the people you wait for. Sometimes it arrives quietly, gently, through someone who steps into your life by accident. The next Friday, Caleb returned to the restaurant. But this time, he wasn't waiting for Marissa. He wasn't waiting for anyone in particular. He was simply living, open to whatever or whoever life brought his way. And sometimes, that's enough to begin again. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like the video, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe for more stories that remind us we're never alone. Before the story ends, please leave a comment telling what part of the story moved you the most. Caleb would later see Sophie again, not because fate demanded it, but because healing attracts healing. And though their paths were uncertain, one thing became clear: sometimes the person you never expected becomes the one who helps you find your way back to yourself. And that alone can change everything.